Hi, Eva here. Today we're going to paint some daffodils. So I'm using cobalt blue for my background because, I'm keeping the background fairly light. And then I'm going to my idea is to put some of the leaves up after we've painted the flower and everything and bring out the stems and stuff like that by negative painting, meaning that we're painting the negative space around the leaves and stuff. So we're making the background around them darker. So we'll get to that. That's a very useful watercolor technique. So I'm going to put 2 puddles maybe of the cobalt blue. So another little one out here. All right, so that was cobalt blue. And then, OMG, got a
lot of paint.
A lot of paint right there. Back in. Now I'll flip this over. There we go. And then I am going to, I need some yellow obviously, because I am going to already have some green going on down in the bottom. So this is my transparent yellow. If I don't say what yellow it is, it's transparent yellow. That's pretty much my yellow, right?
Yep.
That's it. I love that color. It's ugly in here and it's gorgeous out here, and especially once it gets on the paper, it just is, I don't know, it's just my favorite, and it's not a very popular one. That's why you have trouble finding it in kind of like the box stores.
Why do you think it's not popular?
I don't know.
Because people look at it and
Yeah, they probably look at it and say, ooh.
It's not really yellow.
it's
Yeah.
not pretty,
Yeah,
but they don't know.
they don't know. Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly the reaction I had years ago when I first got it home and I squeezed it out in my palette. I said, why did I get that one?
Yeah.
And then I found out why.
Is it only made by a particular company?
Yeah, it's only Winsor Newton that I have come across that has that particular color that they call transparent yellow.
Is that your Quinacrodone?
That's my Quinacrodone red I took here.
Okay.
Just putting a little bit out here. And you know what? I might actually also, no, I'm going to do it like this. Am I going to do it like this? I might take some burnt sienna out, just a little bit out here. I was just debating for a short moment if I should just stick with the 3 primary colors, because I could get the same effect that I'm after with those, but I think I'll just make it easy on myself and on you. So burnt sienna, as you know, is a color that is an earth tone, and it consists basically of all 3 primary colors. Red and yellow, so it makes orange, and then you put a little bit of blue in and you'll get a color that looks like burnt sienna. So there we have it. And then the next order of business here would be to wet the whole paper, minus of course the daffodils. So I'm just going to put some water on with my big old wash brush, and I'm not going to worry about the stems. And here we are. So you can use a big old brush for this. And I'm just painting on 140-pound paper like a lot of you are. So when we do this wet into wet, often our paper will buckle a little bit. And if that happens, I just spray it on the back. And that makes it lie down flat. And that's why I don't like to tape my paper down to my board, for that reason, because then I wouldn't be able to pick it up and spray it on the back. And also because when I'm doing wet into wet, very often I like to be able to pick up my painting and hold it so that I can guide where the colors run. So I think we're pretty good. Let's take a look. Did I miss any crucial areas?
Yeah, a little bit next to the petal. Yep.
Yeah, and I'm a little far from some of the petals, but I can kind of get that.
And this petal you're a long way from.
Yeah, I'm a long way from that one. Here I can pretty much go all the way up to the masking fluid, except I'm using a very big brush, so it's not that easy.
No.
All right, good enough. And I'm not going to tinker around for too long. I'm just going to get the color on. Cobalt blue I'm starting with, and I'm staying with my big brush so I don't get fiddly. And so, just some cobalt blue on here. Go in. Just want to make sure I have some color next to the petals so that it's not white. Of course, I want my daffodils to be the lightest part of the painting, the brightest part of the painting. See, in spite of the masking fluid, I still got a little bit in here. Not that it's the end of the world. And I like to start with cobalt blue because, as you know, it's such a forgiving color. If we mess up, it's pretty easy to lift out. It's not difficult. It's not staining. Yay!
Just starting.
Yeah, it just started.
She wet the paper and now she's in
Yeah.
cobalt blue.
Cobalt blue is what I'm putting on right now. We put a little masking around the flower heads, just around the edges here, just so we can keep our background out of them. And then let's put some cobalt down here, in here. So that was cobalt blue everywhere. So that's pretty easy. But we're not going to leave it at that, because, you know, the whole idea of doing wet into wet is that we can get some soft color transitions. So there we have that. And now I'm going to take a little bit, I didn't even rinse out my brush, I'm going to take a little bit of the yellow, and, you know, I'm going to put in here a few little places around. And I'm already thinking, as you can probably see, I'm thinking a little bit about some of these leaves and maybe some other daffodils, who knows, that are peeking up around the flower heads here. These are in focus, and then there's a bunch of stuff going on in the background that is more diffused. And I might take another brush here with a two brush approach and get a little bit of this the cobalt on here, just because I got a little away from. And then I can also do some of these here. I don't want anything harsh or hard lined. That's why I want to get in and get all this done. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Pretty good so far. And then let's just put that aside. And so you can see it's all very loose, very soft, but that's the whole idea. And then I think I might need a little bit more cobalt blue with a little bit less water, and I can use this puddle that I had already prepared. And I'm going to grade down with a little bit of that burnt sienna. You see a very gray brown color I get there? I want it probably bluer than not. And then I'm going to go in and do a few like these things going on in the background. And they're going to be, you know, very loose. A little bit here. Some. And maybe a little bit more. Dab, dab. From coming from up here. And then. So my idea is that there's some vegetation going on in the background. That's not daffodils. It could be some dead, you know, branches from the bushes, or it could be some faraway trees that we can just barely make out. And it's just to keep a little something interesting going on back there. And this flowed out quite a bit, which I'm not going to be too panicky about it, but I think I want to go back in now with a little bit of a darker green and get a couple more like these here. while I can, and everything is still soft, soft, soft. Like this. This is so much fun, so I gotta kind of try to not get too carried away here. I really like this part. It's when the painting has a lot of promise still. Then comes the time where you have to try to rein it in. But this part is face the music, exactly, of all the stuff you put in. Now you have to figure out how to make it make sense. But here, I think that's good enough. And can you see, it's just, it flows out a lot, so it's very, very suggestive and soft. And that's what we want. And that's it. That's step one. Have fun with that. So I took the masking off. I took the masking off with my rubber cement eraser. Masking fluid picker up, or you can sometimes also just rub it off with your fingers.
You want it?
Yep, I'm on.
Just check it.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much. I can see I have a couple of little imperfections in my masking application, or I got a little color on, but it's not like a big deal. I'm not going to worry about it too much. Let's see. Could you grab my brushes? Brushes, just a brush I want to. Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. Of course, I could, before I start, I could just try and clean up. I have a couple of places where I'm not too happy with my edges here. Can you see I got a little bit of color on right there? Not that it's the end of the world, and since it's mainly cobalt blue, I think I can just scrub back and forth a little bit with a little it's not a scrubber brush, because you don't want to use a scrubber brush already. It's just a little flat brush, a cheap brush that's a little bit stiffer than your regular watercolor brushes. It's actually some of those cheap brushes I buy for. They're meant for masking fluid application.
So you're not, I missed the beginning, you're not taking it off yet. You're just cleaning it up.
I already took the masking off.
Oh, you did all around the outside
Yeah,
of the
so that's,
flowers?
you can see there's no masking
okay.
on. And now I just noticed a couple of places where apparently
Oh, okay.
I was a little slubby. So just want to get those worst offenders out there. So that's actually a little masking there. And then this little area. And this is the beauty of using cobalt in my background, is that it comes off very easily. Comes off very, very easily. There. So all we want to do now is get a little tiny bit of yellow. We want to keep it very light. And if I could keep a little white a few places would be a benefit. Here I think it's the background that should go in. On this one here, I'll just mush it a little bit right there, just so it's not so white. There we go. Enough fiddling around. So I'm going to just get some more yellow. I already have one little puddle. So I'm starting out with my transparent yellow. If you have a different yellow you'd rather use, go for it. But you know me, I'm a transparent yellow kind of gal. So I am going to just take it a petal at a time. And I might even, some of these lines, might just, if I feel that they're a little hard, I might just even go in and just dab my kneaded eraser over just to pick some of that extra graphite off. All right, so I'm going to take a clean brush. Is it clean? Yes, it's clean. And just put a little water on my petal. This petal here, can you see? Put a little water on. And this brush is loaded with the yellow. So let's just...
You go clear up to the edge or leave a space?
I go clear up, not with the water. The water I always leave a little space. That doesn't change. Always leave a little space just because, you know, it's going to otherwise rush in and maybe past where I want it to go. So you can see how transparent yellow has so much pigment. You see how much pigment there is in there? And look how fabulous bright it is. Not at all that brownish, ugly color that it looks like in the pan. It's just, and it has so much pigment, and it is staining. So, you know, a little goes a very long way.
So are all yellows like that?
No,
Oh,
that's why I love transparent yellow. A lot of the yellows are more opaque. They have white in them. Let me show you. Of course, it just so happens that I have an example of another yellow with me. So look at that. See how I just kept it very, very light out there. So I have it kind of full strength in here, and then I just, it's almost white there. So keep it very light to begin with, because, you know, right now we're painting in the lightest light of our yellows. So even if they can, it's on, yeah. Even if it gets too light, that's no big deal. You can always darken it, but you know how it is much harder to lift out. So let me just grab here. I just did a little practice piece here. So look here. So here's also my transparent yellow. That's what it looks like. And then I have another yellow that some of you might have, because that's another, it's my alternative yellow that I have stated, I think, on most of my, it's my little travel palette. And oops. And the yellow fell out. That's okay. Can get it back. Let's see here. I can just do it like
Some
this.
little tweezers in now.
Yeah. So there.
Yeah, those little.
And this is my Mayan yellow from
Never heard of that.
no, I don't.
Daniel Smith.
Oh, Daniel.
I looked at all his yellows because I had a student some years ago. She only wanted to have Daniel Smith colors, so she asked me what yellows to get. And so I tried to see from their color chart and from trying out a few yellows. So I found Mayan yellow and thought that might, and it states that it's transparent. So that's also a beautiful yellow.
It is a pretty yellow.
Yeah, so, you know, but can you see when you look at it in the, can you kind of see how it looks much more opaque when it's diluted than the transparent yellow?
Yeah,
So anyway, but I mean, it's a beautiful yellow, nothing wrong with it.
it is pretty.
So
So it
we'll
lifts
see.
easier, is that it?
Pardon me?
Does it lift then easier than?
I think it might lift easier. I don't know. We could. I've never tested that out. Good question. Let's check it out. Let's see. Now I let it dry, and then we'll see. We'll do a little test. That's the only way of finding things out, is, you know, try it out. Because a lot of times, you know, there's so many colors out there. I do certainly not know them all. You know, as time goes on, you know more and more and more, but you never know it all in watercolor. That's why we can live to 200 years, paint every day, and we still don't know it all. I think it's very true. All right, so I can't paint right next to it, but I can paint, you know, because then it's going to run together, and I want to keep them separate right now. So here, and can you see I have a little bit of yellow in my water, actually. It's a little tiny bit of yellow, and it doesn't matter. Now you can actually see better where I'm at, and I'm going to put a little bit of the yellow in right underneath here, under the trumpet. And you know what? I might just go in and I have a little tiny bit of the cobalt blue that's already from our background that was mixed with a little bit of the transparent yellow. I'm just going to stick my tip in there, because this is underneath the trumpet. So can you see I'm dabbing in just a little bit of a very, very, very light greenish color, because I know it's going to be more shadowy right up underneath there. And then I rinsed out my brush and dabbed it so it's not dripping wet. And now I'm just going to grab this pigment and pull it out. So here, a little bit more yellow over here. There. Can you see? So that's how we're going to paint all the petals. Keep it very light. And the tips will be lighter than right in the middle, underneath or next to the trumpet. So there you have it. That's step one. Step one.
And do all the petals eventually?
Yeah, do all the petals, yeah. That's going to be our beginning point here. So here is my first go around on my daffodils. So at least, you know, got a little separation in between the petals. I try to get them a little darker down there, and then lighter as we go out towards the tips. Here I actually already darkened a little tiny bit underneath that little turnover, and here I didn't really do anything except I left the turnover white in both cases. And see if I can get a little bit of that pencil line out. Once you get color on pencils, it's not that easy to get it. Yeah, it's almost in.
Oops that you.
Yeah,
showing
oops
us?
will take a little bit more out, but that's like I do that last because
Okay.
I just don't want to damage the paper. So I try to be careful with that. All right, so now they're still looking extremely flat. Let's see what we can do. First of all, we can doctor up some of, let's just separate them a little bit more. So you can see I already indicated, you know, the ones that are underneath, I gave them a little bit more color, and the ones that are on top, I try to keep them lighter. So we could doctor that up a little bit more. And what I mean by that,
You put some green over
well,
there?
I
or
put
is
a
it,
little
or-
bit like I did in this one here. So I
Right,
put a
okay.
tiny, I didn't put
Tiny
green,
bit
yeah,
of it,
I took some of the cobalt blue.
Oh,
A couple of places, right, where I wanted to push down, I put a little bit of cobalt blue
Cobalt, okay.
into very little because, you know, I still want it
Yeah.
to say yellow. But can you see, it makes it a little bit greenish yellow.
Yeah, but not much. Yeah.
Not much. I don't want to overdo it.
Right.
But let's just go in, and I have that color on. So now I probably need to go a little bit darker than that, not be such a wimp. So I put a little bit more in here, right in here, this area. It's exactly the same as what we did with the peach blossoms. Remember, we start getting a little bit more. So then clean water on a brush and lose the edge. And can you see how I'm kind of building up the drama a little bit? And I could even dab in a little bit more now. Can you see how now it's, but it's, I want to make sure that it still reads yellow, but I think so far I'm not even close to danger zone. And I can do the same here in this little area where this petal is underneath that other petal. So I just got, and so now I'm doing it on dry. As you can see, I'm doing it on dry. So I often do it with two brushes, so I have another brush at the ready, so nothing dries on me prematurely. And then I just kind of go in and make sure, rinse the brush out. If you're lifting a bit, or if you are, you know, moving the edge on a bigger area, because otherwise you're gonna get those pesky ghost lines. And I can even do it more here, and I can put it also a little bit stronger pigment. So here, so kind of like that. And then again, right away, clean brush, just damp, not dripping wet so that the water rushes in, but damp enough that I can kind of pull it out. Bless you.
Trick. I'm still trying to do that.
That's the whole thing with watercolor, right? Is that soft edge.
But it's not.
So,
I'm still.
and I want to keep this part light because remember it's on top of this one, and I just, you know, put a little color on there. So I don't want to lose my light there because then I'm back to square one. So a little at a time. Here's a little bit of, you know, being patient. Not that I'm the patient person, but, you know. So here, I also want to put a little color on here, this side, because I know that goes down underneath and pushes out that other one. And then let's just pull this edge out.
So it does have a little cobalt in it.
Little bit of cobalt in it, so it's a cooler yellow,
Tiny.
a tiny bit. I don't want to go in and make it too green looking too early. But there's a little tiny bit of cobalt in. So it's a cooler yellow. I cooled it down. And then here, do the same thing. See, I always feel that it's kind of sort of like triangles, and then maybe here I put a little bit here on this edge. And then clean brush, damp many times on the towel, and then just pull it out. And then I rinse it out, dab it again, and pull it out some more so that I don't get any of those ghost lines that I don't like. There's that. Can you see how I'm separating them little by little by little? Creating depth, exactly. So a little bit more here. See, this little area would be dark. And we've already established by looking at our daffodils that these outer petals here that goes around the trumpet, their shadow areas are more in the green tint. They're not in the orange tint, really, when we look at them. So that's why I'm doing it with the cobalt blue. And so here, and I think I want to say, I haven't really told you what's what here. So here I'm pushing down this petal, and then I'm leaving that light edge on that. So that means this one's going down underneath there. There's that. And again, rinse out my brush, and there we have it. And then I could do a little bit of the same up here and say that this one's also underneath that other one, this one here. Can you see that? Putting that down. And that's, you know, my decision. I have to look at it and see what I think. So that's what I thought here. All right. So already there, can you see they're beginning to kind of get a little bit more shape? And it's a little at a time, so it can seem like it's a little tedious, but you know, if we try to do too much in one go, and then there's a little bit of a petal we can see back here. It's from this flower that's in the back. So that one I really need to darken that. That's so that it's there, but it's behind, and you know, it's not getting much light. So there's that. All right, so then we have our outer edges here, where we had those little turnovers. So I'm putting a little bit of that slightly green down yellow on the outer edge of this little fold that's folding over this little tip of the petal. This tip of the petal is catching light. So that's why I put color on the outside edge here, and then I pull it in and keep the tip of this little guy as light as possible, almost white. And let's do the same thing over here. Little bit of that yellow on, pin down there, and then right away, before it dries on me, just pull it out so there's a little bit of a light tip. And did that dry already? I don't know if it did. I hope, maybe not quite. So now I can go in and create myself a little bit of a darker yellow. And again, I'm still staying in that greenish tint yellow because I'm working on these outside, and it's a little warm here, a little warmer than really I should have done it maybe. But I see, so now maybe it was too wet. But I'm putting in that darkness underneath that tip that's turning over to create, that, you know, shadow. And you can see the tip was a little wet, so it's a little premature, but oh well. When that happens, we go in and take a Kleenex and just dab it out. And there. Can you see how it's coming out? And then the same thing down here. Here I didn't do anything to it yet. So let's do something to it. A little bit of darkness around that tip, like that. And then right away, before it dries on us, go in with a damp brush and lose that edge. There we go. Can you see how that gives it shape? We already did that with the others. I mean, it's really no different, but it's a lesson that can be not be practiced often enough. So now this one is one of those petals that's on top, and I just wanted to put a little bit of that shadow yellow, which is just a slightly greened down yellow, kind of underneath there, not out on the sides here, because you know they are lighter on top of some other petals, but just to kind of help me push out that trumpet for later. And now I could even go down, because I find, don't they have like little folds? So let's put some of those in very, very lightly. And again, let's go in and soften the edges, but I'm just wanting to give them so they're not so darn flat and boring. So I go in like this and create some of those little folds. There could be another little one, and just trying to give it a little shape. And so I'm just doing it on this little petal, and then I'm gonna evaluate and see what I think. But I think I'm okay with this, like this. And again, grab a brush, and you see how I don't like to leave it hard edged on both sides. I feel that it's nicer if I kind of soften it out. And I also try not to go like the whole way. I can go in from this end a little bit to a couple of them. And then rinse it out. And if something's too much, you know, just take it away again. But I feel that this is kind of creating a little bit of what I'm looking for, a little bit of that shape on them. Let's take a look. Yeah, it's working. And so there. And here again, be careful. See how I have a ghost line there? See that ghost line? Let's get rid of it. That's when pigment runs to the edge of where I put water, and it stops, and it creates an edge that I did not necessarily authorize. So let's let that little area be. So I'm gonna just grab some more pigment, and just maybe, oh, I could go in here now that this is dry. I can go in and, you know, doctor it up a little bit more, make it a little bit more dramatic, and again, loose those edges. There. And the same here. It's kind of wimpy. Let's go in and do it a little bit more. And again, loose the edge. Yeah. And more fun can be had. Let's see. Let's try and do a couple of these. And you can see I don't go one straight line. I wiggle it a little bit because, you know, then they're petals. They're not like dead flat or straight. And I don't go and do from start to finish. I stop, like here I stopped a little bit down, and then here I didn't go all the way. So I don't do a line that goes like from here all the way to the tip. I think it's too much. If I need it later on, I can always put that in, but you know, try not to overdo it. And so see, there's again a little one, and maybe it picks up on that one. Can you see that? And here, let's do another one. And so there's a lot of fun to be had here on all these petals. So go have some fun with that. I put a little bit of that greenish yellow on all my petals, lost the edge, and tried to give them a little bit more dimension. So this is where we're at. Before I go any further, I think I want to remember that I want to put a little tiny bit of masking fluid in the center, because you know those stamens that are sticking out there in the middle of the trumpet. Be a good idea to just mask out a couple little dots so we can get those little tiny highlights that's on the tip of those that catch the light before we go any further, so don't forget about that. And then, yes, I am recording. I got it on, and so then might be nice maybe just put the stems in. How do you feel about that? Just to get to another area for a little change. And I'm going to use, to begin with, I'm just going to use Cobalt and the yellow. I'm going to go light. So the first thing I could do is, first of all, I have decided, my light source is coming from here. Bless you. My light source is coming from here, and this flower is behind that flower, and that stem's behind that stem, so it would be safe to put a little bit. I have cobalt blue and a little tiny bit of yellow in it. So I'm putting that on the shadow side of this stem that's in the background. I just think it might be a little helpful to get a little stem on and just kind of move over to another area so we don't get, sometimes it's nice not to be too, keep going in the same area. First of all, it gets kind of tedious, and second of all, it helps us sometimes to get some of the other areas painted in to kind of see what comes next in the flower. So here I have a little bit of yellow on the tip of this brush to kind of lose that edge, and I can put a little bit more of that green in now up here behind that. It'll be darker for sure. Of course, it's where the light don't shine. And so here also darker it up with a little bit. And you know how I'm a big fan of not mixing myself like one green and then go to town with that. Of course, it becomes so boring. So here, I think that's gonna dry just fine. Rinse this brush out. Maybe just fine tune here a little bit. There. Okay, so now I can't paint the other stem because it's touching. Then my next thing that I could do is I might grab my pencil, and then let's start and draw in a couple of other things we might. I have a lovely yellow area here. And so what I was thinking was, I'm going to pretend that there's a bud coming up here. Doesn't that kind of look like a bud? Mm-hmm. It looks like a bud to me. And see, then I can take advantage of that nice yellow I had there. And then so that's going behind and then behind and behind. And so maybe that stem will be coming out here. All right. Oops, as I put my finger right smack into the stem I just painted. Oh well. So that goes there. And then I also think here, I could swear that's a bud. That's a bud. See, it could go across like that, and it's kind of coming out. So I want to take advantage of these little yellow areas that I have.
And if we don't have the yellow areas, just leave them out.
Yeah, and then just leave them out. Exactly. Correct. And so this one could be one of those buds that are opening up a little bit more, so then this goes down like this. It's like that little cover petal or whatever it is. So there's that. And then here is the top of a leaf, and here's the top of another leaf. Voila. And you can just make it up. That's what I'm doing. So here, maybe there's another leaf, and here is another leaf that kind of, or it could be a stem, I don't know what it is. It's disappearing behind there. And there might be another one going like here. And then some of them, they kind of turn over on themselves like that. Kind of like that. And so let's get some of those in. And so here's another one going up like this, kind of like that. And would come like this. And here's another one. Comes up here. These take no drawing skills whatsoever.
So you say.
And then let's have another of these here that turn over. It can go out of the picture, that's always good. And then it goes like this, and then you see the other side of it, right? Because it goes like that. It goes like this, and then you see the other side of it. And if you have no clue what the heck I'm talking about, this is kind of what I'm thinking. Can you see? And I didn't draw all these all in one go. I did exactly what I'm doing here. I'm doing a couple, and then I'm gonna, can you see this was the original? Can you see how this was the original color? Because now we're gonna do some negative painting. I always like to say negative painting with a positive attitude. And that's exactly what this is. So let's just get a couple more. Let's get one in here. And it goes like that. Actually, I think this would go more like, that, more like that. And this one's also a little too rounded. There, that's better. Straighten that out a little bit. And you didn't even have to draw it in, you know, if you could, if some painters, they're really good at this negative painting, and they can just, see it and they don't even draw, but I like to draw them in, and I also find that way you can also see what's in my head. And so now I just saw that there was another one that's going kind of behind this one. You see that? All right, so maybe a couple more in here. There's a nice one. It could kind of come up like this and go there. I think that's enough for now. Okie dokie. So in the meantime, while I did all that, I can go in, and then now I can paint that other stem. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take a little bit of the cobalt blue, green it up with sticking the tip of my brush into a little bit of the yellow, and then I'll go up here. And see how that already helps us also push out a little bit of, now there's much more contrast here, right? With the little petal on the flower. So here, drag that down. Might rinse out most of that blue, put some yellow on the tip of my brush, dab, dab. And then I'm gonna go in here and flip it around. And I want to make sure that it stays lighter than that one, because it's in front. There. And then I'm just running in a little bit more of that mixture. It's cobalt blue and the transparent yellow. But can you see now I already have a little indication of those stems? All right, so now comes something really, really fun. So we don't want to go too dark. So we're staying with the cobalt for now, because cobalt, as we know, is kind of a wimpy guy. He can't really go that dark. So I'm going to go in with a little bit of cobalt, maybe green it up a tad, and then first I'm going to go in and find my negative spaces, negative captured spaces. So for instance here, this is a negative captured space. What do I mean? What the heck do I mean? I mean that is the area behind these two leaves. and it's captured because there's an edge on either side of it. Like this is also a negative space, but it's not it continues out there. So the captured ones are the easiest to deal with first. So here's another little captured negative space. So let's just get a little bit of color in there. And I'm putting it on very transparently and not very dark yet, because I want to give myself opportunity to do it a lot darker as I go on, and I can do a whole bunch of layers. And here's another captured negative space. So let's get that in. And you can see it's that, you know, greenish blue with cobalt. And then just connect those two. And I put it on in a transparent manner. So the colors that are underneath or that I already painted, they're kind of coming through. And this stem is not quite dry, so I better stay away. So we can move over here and put a little bit of that watered down cobalt and transparent yellow, bluish green, like this. Can you see how things are coming out into the light by putting a little bit of a darker color behind them? Ooh, here's another one. Captured negative spaces are some of my favorite little things because they're easy and they do have an impact. Look at that. How fun.
Happy little plants.
It doesn't take much to amuse me.
It doesn't know, and our brains are going, what's going on?
So here's another, there's a little bit more complicated captured negative space here. Can you see that? Here, and if you can't yet, so there's there, and then there's this one. Maybe I got it a little darker than I should. So then just a little bit more water. And you want to get it covered before, you know, you don't want a lot of stripes in here. You want it preferably no lines. And so I'm painting around this thing that I drew in, and then it's a captured negative space, but it's a little bit bigger than the other we had. And then it comes up here like that. Need a little bit more color on here. And then here, right? Can you see it? There. And I have one more. This is also a captured negative space that I am now. I want to make sure I have enough water. So you can see I'm not doing it with a tiny little brush because I don't want to run out of the pigment. So here is also a captured negative space. And see how nicely that is going to bring out this petal. So you can see we're beginning to give the petals more life, not by painting the petals, but by painting the areas around and behind the petals. All of a sudden they're getting a little bit more oomph. Okay, I have 2 more captured negative spaces that I can paint. So let's do it. So we have this nice little captured negative space here in between the 2 stems. So there's that. There it is. And last but not least, we have this one here. Goes down there, and then it goes down here. So you can see it's a big benefit not to have a tiny little brush, so you don't get too many brush strokes and it dries on you. So already, can you see how I broke up that bottom part? Now we still have some areas we need to deal with. That's the ones that are negative spaces, but they're not captured. They are free to flow. That's this one, for instance. the only way I can bring this one out is to either paint it in positive, painting the actual leaf, or painting the area. And I'm gonna do it painting the area still. Do I have any more cobalt? Oops, there. And so let's just very watered down. So I'll start on this outside of it. And I don't need a lot of color, just a little bit. I think I should really, I should get myself some more cobalt blue. There. Okay. And a little bit more water. So I can paint here up along that. But see, do I want to paint all the way up to here and the rest of the area? Heck no, I don't. So I'm going to rinse out my brush, and then I'm going to do the dreaded lose the edge. See? And that way I can just let it disappear into the background. Make sure you lose the edge and rinse your brush out really well, because I want to leave this blue, so I don't want to end up having to paint that whole area green. So lots of water, make sure it disappears. All right, so now you can already see the one side of it. Here it is, but we still need to get a little color on in there. And so I'm gonna go, so now it's captured on 3 sides, but not on the 4th. So kind of like the top. So here, and let's get it down here. And as you can see, you don't have to have a lot of color on to capture it. Just as long as there's a little color difference, you're good. And you want to get it on before things dry on you. Rinse it out, lose the edge. Please go to part 2 for the rest of this demo.